Ladies, gentlemen, and exiles of all ages, as people progress further and further into Path of Exile 2, you'll find yourself wanting more of a lot of different things, and aside from the obvious ones like damage and health, the other most sought after things are those which are used to improve yourself, specifically currency items. These range from crafting orbs for improving or changing modifiers on items, to things like jeweler's orbs for adding sockets to skill gems so they can fit more supports in them, and then even things like quality increasers. But today I want to focus on how to increase your chances of getting any of the important rare currencies in the game. Exalted orbs, a very big one, greater and perfect jeweler's orbs, divine orbs, pretty much all of these things, because what we are going to talk about is how to maximize your drop rates in specific situations, and then how to best take advantage of those situations. First things first, farming these items gets more and more effective the later in the game you get. There isn't really a farm for them before you reach endgame properly, and the deeper into endgame you get, the higher quality and quantity of loot you will receive, including these currency items. That said, the main way that you can adjust this and tip it in your favor is through a mix of specific waystones when choosing the maps you engage with, and then specific tablets being used in your Lost Towers as well. The Lost Towers on your sort of map system, when completed, will give you the ability to insert a tablet that will add effects to every uncompleted map within range. This can include adding certain endgame activities to maps that didn't previously had them, or it can just be modifiers for all of the maps. We can use this to our advantage by specifically pathing towards the towers as much as possible so we can get as many of these tablets going as possible, getting as many of the towers overlapping as we can, putting good tablets inside of them, and then all of the maps in their overlapping radius will get a ton of bonus modifiers that affect them. There are of course different ideal modifiers for the tablets too. Generally the ones that seem to result in the most extra drops are breaches and delirium, so breach and delirium focused tablets are great, but any of these sort of endgame activity mechanics that you actively focus on and put multiple tablets into will be able to scale well through this concept. That said, things like affect breach monster density, give you extra breaches on a map, add clasped hands to breach, increase amount of rares on maps in these areas, all those types of things that increase your rewards when doing these activities. If you can get 3, 4, 5 Lost Towers active and overlapping with each other, put tablets with these kinds of effects on them, and make sure that they all boost the same mechanics ideally as well so they synergize together, and then when you go off to do a map with that mechanic, it will have a ton of overlapping boosts from your towers that will increase your amount of drops per time and your rarity per drop as well, which is the winning combination for getting any rare currency to drop in the game. Exalted orbs, divine orbs, jeweler's orbs, you name it, doesn't matter. When pathing to the towers to create these overlapping, essentially Venn diagrams of buffs, you want to try and only complete maps without bosses, and if you actually recognize the layout style from the map name, you want to do all the ones that are more closed in, maze-like in nature, leaving the more open field style maps to be done once all of the tablets are in your towers that can affect these maps, as these are the easiest ones to take advantage of pretty much every endgame activity that can be put on top of the maps too. Saving bosses, also very important, as bosses specifically drop a larger amount of loot than anything else, and so having your boss maps be done after tablets are active will increase your chances of higher quality drops from these bosses too if you plan correctly. This same sort of practice can be applied to waystones as well. If you are earlier on and need more waystones, aim for Lost Towers, apply tablets that have waystone quantity increase as a modifier, then do the good maps in overlapping radius to get higher amounts of waystones dropped. And of course, getting into higher tier waystones mean you will end up with higher level monsters and higher quality loot in general too. So that is an important step to farming those currency items as well. Outside of this, one specific thing to watch for on tablets as well is irradiated. This increases monster level on all maps within your radius, so that is another way to get a little bit higher quality loot out of your maps as well. Outside of this, there are of course the waystones themselves that you can use to activate the maps, and whenever you are doing your highest tier of waystone, you always want to apply as many orbs as feels reasonable to the waystone within your budget. Alchemy orbs are great value for something like this if you want to, otherwise one transmutation orb, one augmentation orb, and then a regal orb if you're feeling spicy and want another modifier. Any negative modifiers on your waystones will increase waystone drop chance while the map is active, and again, more waystones eventually means higher tier waystones, higher level monsters, better loot quality. The modifiers that are generally positive on waystones are usually things like monster pack density increase, more rare monsters, more magic monsters, higher item quantity or item quality, and as you might imagine, any and all of these will result in higher chances of finding currency items like exalted orbs over time and through the actual map. The last thing that you can do to boost the drop rates of your maps entirely depends on the choices that you make on your Atlas tree. Generally speaking, most players recommend the exact same set of starter choices here to boost your waystone drop quantity and get a chance at higher tier waystones as well. But once you do have these sort of picked out, you can eventually expand out into the Atlas nodes that do things like increase pack density, increase magic monsters, rare spawns. All of those same modifiers that are positives to loot drop quantity and quality on things like waystones are also available in the Atlas tree, and they can also increase your drop rates for things as well. But again, I highly discourage going for any of those types of upgrades before you get your first set of waystone nodes, and also the 30% increased tablet drop rate too, as that's quite important. Then there is specifically the local knowledge node over here, which can increase your specific drop chance of different item types based on the biome of the maps that you do. So that is a whole other layer that you can add into this farming concept eventually if you're trying to really target a specific type of thing. Now we come to the sort of final section of this too, because you may be wondering, hey, you're talking about how to get a bunch of Exalted Orbs, but you only have a few right now yourself. And yes, I did, and now I have over 80, just like a few minutes later. And the reason is I did have a bunch, but I am very, very active at spending Exalted Orbs specifically for trading. If you are not playing a solo self-found character, then trading is the quickest and most effective way of gaining power in the game, especially once you reach the endgame. Your luck and RNG is almost never going to match the RNG of hundreds of thousands of other people playing the game and then selling the items they think might be worth something. So as long as you know the type of gear that is good for you, the modifiers that you actually want, you can buy some great stuff for some Exalted Orbs, and that's where all of my orbs constantly go to. That said, the reason that this is important right now within the context of this topic and this discussion is that it also works the other way. You want to know the fastest way to get Jeweler's Orbs? It's have a ton of Exalted Orbs and then trade for them. You want to know the fastest way to get Exalted Orbs? It's to sell items you don't need that will have value to other players. There's no one-stop shop to making this super simple, but once you have an idea of what items are worth something, what modifiers players are actually hunting down, you can start selling items if you have a premium stash tab. You can use the trade website to look up prices of similar items to work out what you should be selling it for price-wise, or you can do what a lot of people do, which is just list an item for one Exalted, see how many whispers you get, and if it's a lot, raise the price. Continue that until you're happy with the results. That said, obviously your ability to sell items for Exalted Orbs depends entirely on luck, really. It depends on what drops for you. But generally speaking, anytime that you upgrade a piece of equipment to a new piece, especially if you're in the endgame, you should ask yourself if the thing you just replaced is good enough to be worth something of any value to other players. And that way, regardless of your ability to interpret how valuable equipment is to other classes or other builds, you will at least be able to make some sort of return on your investments into gear. Another thing is just anytime that you get a unique you're not going to use, maybe have a look at how much that's going for, as a lot of uniques won't necessarily fit your build or class, but some of them can sell for quite a lot of Exalted Orbs if you get lucky. To sort of sum things up then, generally speaking, the rarer, more sought after currency items have their drop chance increased by just bumping up general item drop quantity and quality, or increasing the number of higher rarity enemies that you fight within time as they drop more items on death than lower rarity enemies do. The easiest ways to achieve this are with the Precursor tablets just stuffed into lost towers, pathing between these to leave the good maps for after the towers have been activated, and then doing these more open maps with bosses or in-game activities on them with some nicely juiced up waystones that you crafted up with orbs as well. From this you will either end up getting the currency that you're after in itself, or you'll end up with enough Exalted Orbs or items that you can sell for Exalted Orbs to then just straight up buy the other things that you want off the trade market anyways. That's pretty much it for today then, everyone. It's just a sort of discussion on how to increase your drop rates both as far as quality and quantity as you move through the endgame, as there are a ton of ways to increase player power outside of the pure RNG of equipment drops to begin with, and knowing how to sort of maximize that in the endgame will help give you the best possible long-term experience within the game. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet. Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.